literally everywhere to try and see how South Africans are going by this morning, where they will be exercising their democratic right, quite an important one. Your thoughts so far, Prof? We went to the prisons. The Minister of Justice, the Advocate Masuta, saying that even though prisoners lose some of their rights, this is the one right they get to keep.
That prison in particular is quite significant in the history of the country. Just think of the name Solomon Mahlangu, and you will see how significant that prison has been in a negative sense. So it's a good thing that we're trying to rehabilitate that memory, that painful memory, but also trying to send a message to prisoners to say that correction is the aim. It's not mere meaningless punishment that you are suffering. And I think it's an important thing to invite prisoners to participate in this very important moment.
It also speaks into the global conversation where in advanced countries there's conversations about the exponential growth of correctional facilities and the numbers of citizens who continue to just flow into those facilities. What is your sense of how South Africa is wanting to speak to this segment of our society?
I don't think that conversation has been deep enough. I don't think that there has been enough urgency around it, because the size of prison population is always an indication of the ills of society, if you like. A society can't be sending so many young people to prison if there's nothing wrong systemically, if you like, with that society. There are issues of economy, there are issues of morality, there are issues of class, because who goes to prison and who doesn't go to prison is another issue. In some countries it's racial, and I think in this country also there are elements of race and age that ought to worry us. Many of those people who are in prison ought to be at school. They ought to be the people making the discoveries and the innovations that we talk about when we refer to the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So it's not an innocent thing that our prisons are overflowing. Of course, wrongdoers must be sent to prison.
Yes.
But you can't be overproducing wrongdoers and think you are a normal society.
The other conversation that comes into that scenario is, again, the Raymond Zondo Commission. The people who are in these prisons are supposed to be rehabilitated, but the politicians we're voting for today are the very people who have been implicated, especially in relation to the relations about Bosasa at the Zondo Commission.
So I hear behind your question there's something that you don't want to say openly, and I'll say it for you. I'll say it for you. That some of the politicians ought to be in behind bars, and that they ought to be wearing that uniform that we see prisoners wearing. We haven't until now, except for John Block and perhaps Alan Busak, and you could argue that Tony Ngeni has also been put through the system, as it were, for wrongdoing.
And he has claimed that he's rehabilitated.
Yes. But for the large part, we haven't seen any big prominent politician being found guilty and being sent to prison. We have certainly seen nothing like what South Korea, you were referring to the international scene. I mean, there is that picture of the president of South Korea in handcuffs being led to prison by the police. We have not yet reached the place where, like in Brazil, a former president was jailed. So, and it does speak to the kind of insurance that politicians have in our system. It's a kind of impunity, if you like, that they have enjoyed until now. But who knows? Maybe the Zondo Commission will change all that.
Let's come back to the events of today, the significance of the president voting in Shawelo.
It's a very significant thing. I mean, he's a man who grew up in Shawelo, and that's his home ground. Shawelo is part of Soweto, and Soweto is a very important monument of the struggle in this country for all manner of reasons. So for the president to be voting in Soweto, in Shawelo, at home, to be going back there to say, you know, I come from here, you made me who I am.
Yeah.
And also the politics of township versus city in this country. You know, we continue to see townships be lagging behind. Development is not happening in townships. Development still goes to city centers. All you need to do is to be caught in traffic between Soshanguve and Pretoria in the evening, or between Soweto and Johannesburg in the evening. That tells you that nothing is changing much. So it's good that the president is there, and maybe Maboneng will go to Shawelo, because why is Maboneng where Maboneng is? We need Sandton in Middlelands, where I come from. So I think it's very significant that the president is voting in the township today, and the township that made him.
Now, we're going to also talk about the fact that his roots are in Shawelo, but he's also from Limpopo. And if the polls are anything to go by, there's a huge contestation between his party and the party of Julius Malema in that area. But right now, let's just speak to the footage that